So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The basic idea here is that at the end of this process, 90 minutes from now, you're going to have one simple new thing you can add to your life that should make a big difference in the results you get this year. What I'd like to know is for you to just introduce yourself to everybody. Briefly, just tell us what you do and what you're hoping to get out of the next 90 minutes.
So my name is Nikki Viljoen. I'm an internal auditor and business administration specialist. I work with entrepreneurs and I help them to put their infrastructure in place so that they can grow sustainable businesses. What I want to get out of this webinar, I think that for the most part in my life, I'm very much a black and white kind of person. So I think that the other side of my brain is sadly lacking. So I'm hoping to get a bit more creativity and not in a bookkeeping kind of sense, but in a life sense.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, thank you. And you'll definitely get that. And
Cool.
it's really about the whole brain because there's not really two sides of the brain, but that's another conversation. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tondo, let's do boy, girl, thing.
Okay. My name is Tando Sogan Joburg. I'm a media content producer. I've got a lot of things going on, you know, really coming from different angles. So I just need to figure out how to, you know, get more management going on because I think the creative stuff is coming from every direction. But I need to figure out how to sort of zone in from creative concept to a physical project and get it going. I don't know if that makes some kind of sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And the last step of what we do tonight is designed to give you a very concrete thing you can do, right? So
Okay.
The process we'll go through will
Okay.
take you to the point where there's a concrete thing you can do that you might already do sometimes, but you'll see when we get there, it's something that will shift the way your results will happen this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Carol?
Okay, and my name is Carol. I'm a marketing specialist. I run an activation agency based in Johannesburg. And I think my primary interest is looking at different models that are accessible and available to be able to navigate, you know, sort of problems as they come in to ensure that we can assist other people as well to be able to have a very clear process of how they can get through this decade.
Cool. Because by the 2030, we'll be in a bit of a different space, right?
Exactly.
According to some people, time is speeding up. So apparently we'll be really different by the end of the decade. But for now, let's just get this year done, right? Really quickly, my name's Michael. You know that. I have a company called Create Your Creativity. You guys all know that. We do a training called the Innovation Explosion, which is normally done as an 8-week process, once a week. But we also have done it with companies in a 2 or 3 day, full day format. I am an African American, as you can see on the right side of the top. I've been in Joburg 16 years. I'm a citizen of both countries. I'm a certified coach, as well as a certified NLP practitioner, executive coach, right? And tonight, the one thing that has in common with what we do normally is that we are going to look at how you can transform the way you normally think, right? And how can we accomplish that in just over an hour? Here's the basic suggestions for the rest of the evening. I'd like you to make sure you have something to write on, right? Not try to take any notes on the device you're working through now. After that, if you could stay put for the full time we're on the call, unless there's a disaster you have to attend to, please fully participate. I'd like you also to approach any moment that comes along in this conversation that you already kind of understand or have been through before in a way that you don't know it, right? That it's a new thing, even if it's something you've studied before or worked with. To give you a better opportunity to let go of your existing thoughts and the existing patterns you have. And finally, stay to the end. in the future, the free gifts we'll be able to give out on kind of webinars will be better than the ones tonight, but the ones tonight are really good too, right? So if you stay to the end, you'll get some cool free gifts. Anyway, 90 minutes is the length of this webinar. We will finish in 90 minutes. So do not be calm, do not relax. We are about to get started full speed, and we are going to go through stuff in your life. And please, as I said, participate fully, be here, enjoy. So first thing you want to do is write down the name of whatever it is you want to work on in the next period of time. Could be the company that you run. It could be a specific project you're doing or want to do. You know, it could be a specific area of work that you have, but something around your business, right? So in my case, I did the same exercise, and I'll share with you as we go along, but the exercise I've done is along with your creativity, right? So first thing I want to do is have you make a quick list of the 3 biggest achievements you made in that thing last year. If for whatever reason, the thing you've chosen is brand new and you didn't do anything about it last year, then you can still make a list of the 3 biggest achievements that would relate to that new thing. Right? So looking at what you did last year. For example, in my case, I managed to launch my workshops into the public after doing them only in tertiary academy. I finished the draft of my first book that's going to get published. And I spoke at a lot of events, one with Carol, right? That's the 3 things I think were the most important for me last year. So now, would anybody like to share your list of 3 things?
I'm happy to step up.
Okay.
So what I'm doing at the moment is digitizing my workshops. Because I've come to understand that it's more difficult to get bums and seats for a full day, especially when part of the course or the curriculum may be something that the entrepreneur has already done. So by taking a workshop and breaking it down into several modules, and each module has several lessons, it makes it easier for the entrepreneur to attend exactly what they need rather than the whole package.
Okay. So what were the 3 biggest things
for me I signed up for a full year course. As a technophobe, I signed up for a full year course on how to do the digitization myself. So that's been quite a journey. And the second thing was learning to do some of the technical stuff has been a huge challenge for me, and I've stepped up to the plate, which I'm very proud of myself for doing. And then the third thing is I've already recorded the first module.
Okay.
And that was also quite difficult because you're not speaking to an audience, you're speaking to a screen. So you still have to keep the energy up.
Okay.
So yeah.
So the 3 things is you signed up for the course, you recorded the module, and the third one, remind me?
Is the recorded recorded the module, and the second one was learned how to actually do the technical stuff.
Okay, got you. All right.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to pick one of those things that was the most important or the proudest achievement of that list, what would be?
Oh, it would be the recording thing.
Making the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
How difficult it is to,
Okay. So in my case, I can say that I finished the draft of the book. For me, was the proudest thing, right? And for you, it's the recording. And each of you now should select the one thing that you can say was the proudest thing you did, right, in that list of things. Okay. Having done that, I'd like you to now make a quick list of the 3 things you can say you did that caused that result. So in my case, finishing the book, 3 things I did that were very important was I wrote the manual for the workshop that I teach, right? And that gave me not only gave me a concrete center for the book, but it also showed me that I was halfway done with the book already. Number 2 thing I did is I told people that I'm finishing the draft by the end of the year, right? And the third thing I did was set time in my schedule to actually accomplish that, and I did. Most important of those 3 things for me was telling people that I would finish the draft. Because for me, if I told a bunch of people I'm doing that, I didn't want to have to come back to them and tell them I wasn't done yet. So, Carol, how about you? Would you like to tell us what the 3 things you did to make the most important thing of your last year happen? And which one of those is the most important?
Sure. So I brought in, I worked with a group of partners, almost on a collaboration.
Okay.
I committed funds to the project.
Mhm.
And I found a very inspiring, challenging partner to work with.
Okay. And
I think the biggest one was the inspiring partner.
Okay, so the most important thing you did was to join up with this partner.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So now everybody else, do you have the one thing you did last year that was the most important thing you did? I'm going to go with yes. Okay, so having done that, I'd like you to flip it over now. Make a list of the 3 things that you should have done that you didn't actually accomplish. Could have, should have, whatever, right? Didn't get done. In my case, just to give you an example, I didn't really sell the training into the corporate market, right? We did a lot of entrepreneur work, but we didn't really deal with any big companies. The second thing I didn't do is I didn't make enough money writing to justify writing. It was more of a way to get my ideas out and get people to follow me or whatever, but I didn't make any money. And I also didn't get paid to speak. So I spoke at a whole bunch of places, but I didn't get any money for it. So those are 3 things I did not get done. And if I had to choose the one that was the most troublesome, for me, it's the corporate uptake, right? Because if I'd gotten corporate uptake, I would have gotten more money and I wouldn't have to worry about the other 2. So I'd like you now all, of course, to make a list of the 3 things that you wish you had done that you didn't get done and pick the most important one. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to share on that yet. I want to jump straight to the next step, right? Which is exactly the same step we did before. What are the 3 things you can think of that you didn't do that maybe would have made that happen, right? In my case with the corporate uptake, I did not do long-term planning. I was always worried about the next month, trying to get a workshop in where I could get people through, get companies, small companies through, and didn't think about the long term. Second thing I didn't do was I didn't really research what was possible to achieve. And the third thing I didn't do was I didn't really reach out and market, right? The product to corporates. It was only marketed to individuals in the network that I had, okay? Of those 3 things, the one that I think was the most fatal was that I didn't reach out to corporates and just market it and see what happened. So Tondo, it's your turn, I think, if you'd like. Would you like to share with us give us all 3 of these. What are the 3 things you didn't achieve? Which one of them was most important? And what is the one thing you didn't do that probably caused it not to happen?
Okay, so the things that I did not achieve. I start from there, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going along very nicely with you, but the one thing that stands out with what I did not achieve was I did not get started. I did not get started because in one of my other things that is because I didn't know where to start. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, that's my one thing that so I couldn't figure out the heads and tails of my project. I was supposed to start a film project. I was supposed to develop a script. I was supposed to get money to produce. And I didn't really know where to get started, how to get started. So I think I had a lot of pieces on the ground and I would move them all around, but I couldn't get a direction somewhere to go and start to get the project really going.
Okay, so the one thing you didn't do was you didn't figure out how to start.
Yeah.
Okay. So now here's the next step, Tondo, and everybody. I'd like you to now list the 3 things around your project you know are going to happen this year. You know they're going to happen, right? In my case, just again, give you an example, I know that I'm going to do a video series of the training that I've been delivering all through the last year. So very similar to Nikki's, right? And actually, I know that I'm going to be doing it at least twice because I'm going to do it now and again in a few months with my partners in a much better way. For now, we're just going to do a very easy one, and then later we're going to do a fabulous one. I'm going to publish in some fashion the book that I've finished the draft of, and I'm going to write 2 other books that are already partly written. They're not saying I'm publishing them, but those are 3 things I know that I'm going to do this year, and I have no doubt about it. A very simple list of 3 things that you know you'll get done this year.
This week or this year?
This year, 2020.
Oh yeah. Well, for one, I wanted to like write the novel, or at least start the series.
Okay,
I wanted
so
to
you know
get a
you'll start
serial.
them all. I'm sure you'll start it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I just feel it in my bones. It's something that I wanted to do really soon.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but we want to keep moving forward quickly, right? So we want you to just give us the 3 things in one project, so it stays focused. So if it's the novel, or if it's streaming, 2 different things, right?
Yeah, 2 different things, but you have to like do them at the same time, because streaming gives you a community to talk to, people who are artists also, that like can motivate you.
So actually, the project you want to achieve is you want to build a community that you're going to speak into.
Yeah, so people that can motivate me too, to actually keep on going on my own projects.
Okay, so what are the 3 things you know you're going to do? You're going to start building that community, right? Number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2?
Of course, restarting my social campaigns again, my Instagram and maybe starting a Discord channel or something.
Okay, number 3?
Number 3 is lastly, more importantly, is trying to improve my art.
Okay, so you're definitely going to work on that.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. So what we want to make sure we're doing here, guys, as we go through this process is simply stick to the basics, right? Don't want to drift off into thinking about why it didn't happen or until we talk about that, because we're going to get to it. I'd like you to now look at what are 3 things that you'd like to get done in 2020, but you're not so sure that it's going to happen. Again, in that same project, right? So you think it could get done, you'd like it to get done, but you're not sure. So again, in my example, I don't know if the first book that I put out is going to be a best-selling book. Right? I have no idea. I'd like it to be. I don't know if I can make R1 million in profit this year, and I don't know if I can reach a community like Ray's talking about of say 100,000 or even 50,000 followers, right? Nikki's a bit of an expert at this community stuff, so I'll probably ask her to advise me. But for now, I'm not sure, right? So if you guys could make a list of these 3 uncertain achievements, and then guess what I'm going to ask you to do. Anybody want to guess?
You're going a bit fast.
You got the 3 things that you need to get done this year. You're not sure you can get done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is pick the one that is the most important to you. In my case, of those 3 things, I think making R1 million in profit would be the most important for me, right? Because if I do that, I think I can actually have better results in the other things. Carol, would you like to share with us what the one thing you'd most like to get done in 2020, but you're not sure you can get done is?
So I'm running a series of research projects, and I'm not sure that we'll be able to sell any of them.
Okay. Have a thought about what could you do to actually get the result you want. And also think about what are the reasons that you think it might not happen, right? So in my case, remember, it was making R1 million in profit. So I would start to think about what are the things I could do to make it happen, and why is it potentially not going to happen? Now, I'm going to ask us to step aside from that question for a moment, but let it run in your mind. If you feel like writing something down, feel free, but you don't have to. Right? Has anybody heard of Benjamin Zander?
Yeah.
Benjamin Zander is the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. He used to be a professor at the New England Conservatory of Music, and he wrote a book with his wife at the time called The Art of Possibility. He also became known as the man who will give you an A. Right? And here's why that is. When people came into his class at the conservatory, he would, on the first day of class, tell them they all got A's for his course. And he would ask them to go home and write an essay explaining how they got their A. And when they came back with that essay, what he asked them to do was to simply follow the plan they'd now written. And perhaps unsurprisingly, right, he actually had students who were fully engaged, very excited, and did great work because they wrote their own plan for how they could succeed at the goal of getting a great grade in his class, right? So what we're going to do for the rest of this conversation is look at a process that will help you design your A. We're now going to take a little bit of a curve into the more usual stuff that I talk about creativity, because I want you to think about and notice how you can start shifting the way you always normally think. No matter how creative you are, right? No matter how much you actually are a thinker who is flexible, you're not that creative as you could be. There was a study done about 50 years ago by a guy named George Land who worked for NASA, and his job at NASA was working with engineers and scientists to help them be more creative. He decided to find out what happened to creativity because he found that most of the people he worked with didn't seem as creative as they ought to be. And what he discovered when he did this survey was that 5-year-old children, when he tested them, ranked 98% of the children as creative geniuses. In other words, according to statistical error, you could almost say that all 5-year-olds are creative geniuses. Right? He went back 5 years later and did the same children again at 10 years old. How many do you think were still creative geniuses?
50.
It's a little optimistic, but not too bad. It was actually 30%. So basically 2/3 of those children had lost their genius. Went back 5 years later, age 15. Any guess as to how many of the 15-year-olds, same kids, were still creative geniuses?
About 5.
Not a bad
12.
guess, because
Okay.
12%. At this point, Land's team was very depressed, right? So they decided rather than waiting another 5 years, they would just go out and do a large sampling of various adults. They did 280,000 adults. Any guess as to the percentage of adults that scored as creative geniuses?
3.
Very good guess, Tom. Nope, 2%.
Wow. 2%.
Right? So what this taught us is we don't learn to be creative, we learn to be uncreative.
But it's the same with fear, Mark. As
Mhm.
children, we're fearless.
Yep.
And we're taught fear by our parents, our peers, the people that we are around us. I mean, you look at kids, they come home with these crazy, right out there kind of drawings that they do, and you encourage them. But if you as an adult had to do a drawing like that, the people would look at you like there's something wrong with you.
Why does this happen? And there's a very famous TEDx talk, right, by a guy named Ken Robinson. It's the most watched TED talk in history, called, it's about how education kills creativity. But there's another thing that kills creativity that may not be so designed, right? And it's this. If I asked you, would you like to be more creative as a result of this conversation, would you all say yes? Probably.
Yeah.
Normally, if I do a group
Yes.
of 50 people in a room, all 50 raise their hand when I ask that question. They say, yep, I would. If I say, keep your hand up if you'd like to be more uncertain, very few keep their hands up. The basic way, right, to actually be creative is to become more uncertain. We all, right, go through our life and build a series of boxes in our minds based on judgments we make. And we like to make judgments very quickly. In fact, throughout this entire conversation until now, I've asked you multiple times, please make a list of the 3 most important things. And I said, please choose the 1 most important of those 3, right? And every time you are looking for the answer to that, the 1 most important thing. And you are pretty certain about that answer, right? And there's nothing wrong with being certain about that answer, unless you don't realize, as you probably don't, that that answer is based on a collection of thoughts in your head that are limited, right? Based on your experience of the life you've lived up until now. You could call it a set of boxes. And when we talk about thinking out of the box, it's an absurd proposition. Thinking out of the box is not what human beings do. Right? We think into boxes that we design in our minds in order to learn what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what works, what doesn't work. Nikki says people are going to judge her for a drawing because it looks silly. Well, Nikki doesn't know that, she just thinks that. And we have
because I know that I'm not an artist, and I know that what I would produce would be highly suspect.
Right, and a 5-year-old doesn't know that, but it is highly suspect, isn't it?
But they don't care.
They don't. They don't care because they don't know. How can they care about something they don't know? They don't have that box in their head at all, right? There's no box in their head to decide whether their drawing is good or not. You, as you've lived throughout your life, have built a series of boxes that generally works for you. It helps you survive. That's what we all do, and that's why none of us are creative anymore, because being creative essentially is being able to be different or think different from yourself. So in order to be creative at a high level, the first step towards that is to start to become comfortable with uncertainty. To start to realize that the answer you think is the right answer is only based on a construct that you've created called you. You think you have free choice, and yet you've taken away most of your choice by building a personality based on your history in the past. Now, normally in the workshops we normally do, this would be a conversation that would go on for very many weeks. Tonight, this is about all the time we got for it. But the important thing to get out of it is this. When you look at the creative process, right, and how it works, it's very simple. It's a 3-step process. You take things in, you think about them, you come up with new thoughts about them, and then you repeat those thoughts as some kind of communication, either externally or to yourself, right? Over and over again, in fact, you do this. If you're writing an email, if you're having a conversation, you loop back to the beginning so that your perception is now based on what you've said. If you're writing an email, the next word comes from knowing the previous word. So the creative process is a very basic process of perception, conception, representation over and over again. And we as grown-ups don't let this process run. We like to interfere with this process. And the place we interfere with it almost usually the most is these places. In between gathering information and analyzing information, great creative thinkers let the information go so that the subconscious can actually do the job it has, which is to come up with the ideas. We, as adults, already know the answers most of the time, right? Therefore, we don't incubate ideas. We brainstorm in a company by sitting down on the first minute and say, let's throw around some new ideas. We don't gather a group of people and actually get to calibrate and get to know what we're working with. So the first step of incubation is something that children do automatically. We rush into pushing to getting the right answer. And you may not yet notice, but you are about to, that I have forcibly stopped your process in the perception phase. The great question I asked you to work on was, what is the one thing, right, that would most cause you to have the result that you want, but you're not sure about? You've started thinking about that, and instead of letting you think about that, I've taken you off onto another conversation, haven't I? So I forcibly caused you to have a moment of incubation. Einstein used to go into another room and play violin when he felt like stopping to think about his work. It's a process that great creative thinkers actively do, right? 5-year-olds don't necessarily choose to do it, but they do it automatically. If you don't have that, you end up with the uncreative process. And it looks like this. You end up trying to come up with ideas without doing the work that cause ideas to come.
Yeah.
And the work that causes
So
ideas to come is a process that allows your subconscious to actually come out to do the work of thinking of new ideas, because only your subconscious can actually generate those ideas. So as long as you keep telling, come to you, Nikki, as long as you keep telling your subconscious the rules that you've already put into those boxes, it's going to follow those rules, because that's what it does. Nikki, go ahead.
So I have a dream time once a week, and I call it dream time, and it goes into my diary.
Yep.
And it's an appointment with myself.
Yep.
Where I don't take calls, I don't read emails, I don't speak to people. It's my time with myself, because I cannot achieve it if I don't dream it.
Absolutely.
So without the dream, there's no goal. Without the goal, there's nothing. And it's something that I teach to my mentees as well.
Yep.
That we all have to actually take conscious time out to dream of the next step, or even the ultimate goal, and how you're going to get there.
Absolutely. Right. And taking that into your schedule as you are talking about is a perfect process of letting your subconscious free, right? And do you actually build it into your daily schedule?
No, not daily.
Right? It doesn't necessarily mean doing that same activity. It could be something else. Because what I want to look at now is this. If you look at that question we asked at the beginning of that section, what is the uncertain achievement that you most want? One way of getting that achievement is to do kind of thing that most of you already know, right? Which is SMART goals. Some of you at least definitely have worked with SMART goals. I have something that I like to get people to do called SMART C goals, which is based on adding one other thing to SMART goals. So SMART goals, for those that may not know them, are basically, they're based on the idea of having things be very clear. So you want specific goals that are measurable, that you know if you reach them or not. So if my goal is to make R1 million in profit by the end of 2020, it's pretty much specific, it's measurable, it is attainable, it's relevant to what I'm doing, and it is time-based. So it is a SMART goal. If you don't have SMART goals, then you don't have a way of knowing if you reach your goals. That makes sense to everybody. And as I said, I know there's some people on this call who already work with that. Any guess, Nikki or anybody else, what the C stands for?
No idea.
Certain.
Okay. I'm going to tell you in a second. So if I make the SMART goals around the basic bigger goal that I had, here's some examples of specific SMART goals that I could make. If I pitch 50 companies on the process that myself with my new partners are setting up, and I close or we close on a third of them, that should get me to that place. If I deliver our workshop, or we deliver our workshop to 200 people or entrepreneurs, and sell 10,000 copies of the book. These are 3 goals by the end of the year that would help me achieve the bigger goal. Now, the C is for celebrate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, how many of you celebrate when you achieve goals?
Nope, not me.
I do.
And you
All the
do,
time.
Nikki, you do, Nikki, and I bet you also don't, because I'm going to ask you a couple questions now.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
No, I do.
Okay. So before I ask you those questions, for those of you that don't, here's some reasons you should. The American Psychological Association has a list of great results from celebrating. Pretty much like everything good. Right? More energy, less stress, better health, and achieving more goals. Teamwork, trust, better leadership. Dan Pena, the $1 trillion man, who looks to me a lot like one of Trump's defense attorneys, but he's not, says it will strengthen your psychology and your body. He says that it will tighten your network if you share your celebration outwardly, especially people like Ray, who's talking about that as his goal. And also positions yourself both inside yourself and externally as a winner. And finally, David Campbell, CEO of Center for the Creative Leadership, says that celebrations are the punctuation marks that mark the sense of time. In other words, without them, life becomes a series of endless Wednesdays. Now, some Wednesdays are great.
So very true.
Some Wednesdays are great. Okay, why don't we celebrate? I'm just going to offer you a list and you tell me if there's anything else that I've left off it. Here's a bunch of reasons why we don't. Tondo, you're going to love this list. You're going to see yourself here, I bet. Didn't earn it yet.
Okay.
Didn't earn the celebration yet, right? You got somewhere, but you didn't get there yet. Another one, you don't have time for it. Another one, you don't have money to celebrate. Or here's a great one, it's embarrassing. Again, Nikki, a 5-year-old makes a drawing, they celebrate their drawing by running to somebody and showing it to them and looking for praise. Yeah. But you don't. If you make it, well, you probably don't make it.
No, I don't do drawings anymore.
Exactly. But if you did, you wouldn't go celebrate. What have you done to celebrate your wins? I want you to look back quickly at the list of things you did last year that were achievements, right? What did you do to celebrate those things? Tondo did nothing.
Oh.
That's it. I did nothing and nothing to celebrate.
Yeah, and yesterday on the call we had, somebody tried to claim that they took their family on a holiday to celebrate their year. But it was clear that that's not what they did. They took their family on a holiday because they take their family on holiday. Right? So
they're just bullshitting themselves, in other words.
In other words. And they admitted it as soon as I said that. Yeah. But
well, Michael,
here's the question, Nikki. What have you done to celebrate your not wins?
Not wins.
My
the
not
things on your list from last year you did not achieve. What did you do to celebrate that?
Okay. I've got this handled. So if you have a list, and I do one every year, and when I reflect back at the end of the year, and I tick off all the things that I've achieved, I give praise. I'm grateful to myself for having achieved them. When I look at the things I have achieved, I compare them to the other things that weren't on the list that I did achieve. So if there were 10 things on the list and I achieved 8 things, for example, how many other things that weren't on the list that I did achieve?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, it's very good to look back and see how far we've come, rather than always just beat ourselves up for the stuff that we didn't get to. There's always other things that we got to that weren't on the list.
Absolutely. All of that is incredibly valuable. And the question is, what have you done to celebrate the things you didn't achieve?
Well, for me, it's a challenge, and I only compare to myself. I don't compare myself to someone else. So the only thing that I can do is try and do better the next day, or the next month, or the next year, or whatever it is.
Fantastic.
And that is a celebration of me stepping out of my comfort zone and acknowledging
yeah,
that it's there.
Yes, yes, exactly. I've got acknowledge as a thing here to celebrate your not wins. There's definitely something that you do to celebrate your not wins. And as Nikki was just saying now, it's really just acknowledge and somehow the plan to move forward, or the action to move forward, or to take something that you are learning out of that particular part.
Sure. So here's what I'm really asking, because how are the things that you didn't, and some of you are kind of talking about this, right? How are the things that you didn't achieve actually things that you achieved? Very famous.
Oh no, mine were definitely not achieved.
And
they didn't get a chance to fail because they were not even attempted.
Fair enough. And you know, if you didn't do them at all, right, then
Yeah.
then you didn't do them. But how are the things that Edison did when he didn't invent the light bulb actually victories? Well, he said they were. He said the
I think that he learned from his experience, from his failures.
And he didn't call them failures. Right? First line here is, I haven't failed.
Ah, okay.
He realized that 10,000 experiments were the steps he had to take to get to the end.
Yeah, he didn't fail. He just figured something out.
Yeah. So the question, when I ask you the question of how have you celebrated your quote unquote not wins, the real question is, sorry, going back to this, the real question is, and I want to step away from the celebration conversation for a moment and get back into a stream. The real question I want you to start thinking about is, if a SMART goal is something you plan, then how do you plan to celebrate? And we're going to come back to the celebration conversation just now. Very few people actually plan their celebrations before they start.
Sorry, can you ask that question again?
Yes. If you're making a SMART goal, like this, right? You actually set the goal before you start. That's what you do. Yeah?
Correct.
Very few people actually set a goal that includes celebration as part of the goal. Which is why mostly people don't celebrate.
Ah, I know what you mean.
So you don't say that when I get to the end of this thing, I will celebrate by going out to dinner with my best friend. You just get to the end and then you try to think of what to do.
True that.
And maybe you do plan it. Most people don't. But I want to bring us back to this stream for now. We'll come back to conversation about celebration. Going back to the question about what was your number one uncertain goal. And we talked about thinking about what are the things you have to do to get to that goal. So in my case, I said, I have to close on about 20 companies. I have to deliver the workshop to about 200 people outside of the companies and sell 10,000 copies of the book. If I do that, I'll have a R1,000,000 profit. The really cool question to look at is, if I get a R1,000,000 profit, who will I become that I'm not now? In my case, I'm just saying I'll be a profitable thought leader. I have 10,000 people reading my book, and I've trained 20 companies and 200 entrepreneurs this year. I could call myself a profitable thought leader. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
So take a moment now to consider, you've already got a couple of things you can do. You already know what you want to have. Who would that make you be? Now, keep in mind that you could change this later, so you don't have to think too hard. Just think of the first thing you think of. Who would like, actually, let's have everybody share. Who will you be after you reach your goal this year? Nikki.
Exactly who I am now.
Okay, and who's that?
I'm a person who makes a difference.
Mhm.
I am a problem solver.
Okay.
I'm here to serve, and I'm very conscious of that. I will have just served a hell of a lot more people than I have now.
Okay, so you're a conscious problem solver who does service for people.
But we're all here to serve. We're all in the business of service. Just many don't know that.
Well, very many, right?
Very many.
Very many. Thank you. Tondo, who will you be?
I think I would definitely be a better provider, family-wise, and with profitable IP. In the list of things that I might not achieve, right? I've got the most important one there is signing contracts. I'm worried that if I will sign all the contracts that it takes for me to be where I need to be, to have the rights to do some of the things. And
Okay.
that depends.
Yeah. So
that depends on
who will you be if you sign all the contracts?
I will be providing further with profitable IP.
Okay. Now notice the profitable IP is the have, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be a provider.
Yes.
Anything else?
That's it. I said I've got here working further with profitable IP. That's it.
Okay. Now, again, notice the profitable IP is the have. It's not the be.
Oh.
You'll get the IP, and that will make you a provider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah.
Now you can add to the provider if you have other thoughts. Thank you. Carol.
I haven't articulated this in my head, so I actually can't tell you.
Oh, well, you're going to articulate it right now. Watch this.
I need to incubate.
You're going to articulate it right now. Watch this, Carol.
Oh, marinate more likely, Carol.
I need to marinate it.
Okay. What do you need to do? What's on your list of the things you need to do? 2 or 3 things.
The list is far too long.
No, give me 2 or 3 most essential things.
So I need to I don't know.
But you said there's a long list now, so just read us the first.
Yeah, but they're all like bitsy things. They're not specific enough to make sense yet.
Well, give us 2 or 3 things on the list.
So I need to probably present the study in 5 different markets.
Okay.
And I need to do a lot more marketing.
Okay.
Around it.
A lot more is not a SMART goal, right?
Exactly. I told you none of this is SMART.
Got it, but it's fine. I'm just pointing out. So now when you've done that and whatever other things, what will you have? What's the goal?
The goal is to be able to sell all the research projects.
All 5 research projects.
All 5.
Sell for how much?
I don't know yet.
Well, make up a number.
Okay, let's say sell for $5,000.
$5,000 each.
Right.
By the end of the year.
Right.
Okay, so you want to sell 5 research projects for $25,000 by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. When you've accomplished that, who will you be?
A fantastic researcher. No, I'm joking.
Well, that sounds good. So you'll be fantastic?
I'll be a thought leader
Okay.
in the particular area of research.
Okay, so you'd be a fantastic thought leader. Yes?
Nah,
Why not?
I'm already fantastic. I'm like Nikki. I'm already who I am.
But that's about living in authenticity.
Yeah.
It's about
Now, Nikki articulated, though, who she is, right? So are you saying that by doing this research and selling it, you'll be a more fantastic thought leader? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll just be a thought leader in the field.
Okay.
But the way she said it was very convincing. When she said she's going to be fantastic, it sounded so final and convincing. I liked it.
It did. And you notice she backed off of it because she thought about it.
Yeah.
So,
but it was
you know
really
what? One of
true
those reasons you gave why we don't celebrate. I don't celebrate because I'm embarrassed by things like those.
Yeah. That was
I
on
don't
our
like the
list.
fanfare around it.
That was on our list.
Yeah.
Right there. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
That's
So
it.
can I make a
Yeah.
suggestion? If you were to sell the 5 projects, all of them, I don't believe your lie right now that you were going to be able to tell me that you're exactly the same now as you'd be then, because you're doubting that you can do it. If you were to actually sell all 5 projects for the amount of money you just said, you would be surprised about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. So one thing you would be that you're not now is surprised.
Okay.
So that's not the same.
Okay. I
Okay?
get that thought.
Now, be honest with us. What would you be after achieving that thing that you really doubt you might be able to achieve? What would you really be that you're not now?
Proud.
Proud.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say that or did somebody else say that?
No, I
That
did.
was-
My bad. I did.
Yeah, please.
Tanda was
Tanda.
helping me.
No, he's not helping you. He thought he was.
I think I'd be happy. I'd be happy that I've achieved it.
Okay. Anything else? Let it unravel, because I get the sense, Carol, that you do hold things close, right? I think you'd be
Sometimes.
ecstatic. No, you'd be absolutely over the moon. Wouldn't you?
No, not
No?
really. I
Okay.
think the purpose for doing the research is to be able to provide more information readily to larger groups of people within the continent. So for
Okay.
me, it would be,
Good.
a breakthrough. It would be a breakthrough that there is information available, affordable,
Mhm.
and it is useful.
Okay. So
So
you would be a person that has provided that breakthrough.
yes, you could say that.
Okay. And I mean, I get that there's other things involved, other people involved, there's spiritual questions, all sorts of stuff, right? But bottom line, you would see yourself in a different way, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd be part of a team that has provided a breakthrough.
Okay. Part of a team, leader of a team?
No, part of a team.
Okay. So you would be a breakthrough team member, something like that.
Okay.
Who is happy that you are able to provide that kind of access or information to people all over the country.
Right.
Okay. That's not who you are right now.
I am still that person.
Okay. We're going to get to that in a second anyway, so I'm glad you're holding to that. Let's give Ray a quick try.
Sure.
Ray, who will you be when you get that goal?
The B, okay. The B part is like it's like the journey. It's something that you want to achieve. You want to be an artist that can live off from your passion.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be I will be able to live off from the profits or the income I get from doing my passion work,
Okay.
creating comics.
Okay. And what would that be like for you?
Oh, well, of course, it's, well, it will be, I will be elated because I think it's one of my childhood dreams. Um, I'm looking over my past, and I think ever since I was in high school, I always wanted to be a comic writer, an
Okay.
illustrator. So
So
something,
you'd be
it's
an
a high
elated,
achievement.
you'd be elated,
Hmm.
and you'd be someone who's achieved your dream.
Yes, I'm not just saying, becoming a successful artist, but rather I'm saying I'll be able to survive as an artist.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I'll when I'm able to become an artist that can survive on his own income,
Okay.
then maybe I can set higher horizons or bigger dreams, like becoming number one or something. Yeah.
Well, you'd be a successful artist to start with.
Yeah.
A functioning, working, successful artist.
Yeah. I was thinking about Vincent Van Gogh wasn't even able to sell his own works when he was alive, so he had to die before he was able
That's
to
a
sell.
morbid
And you're
thought.
not keen for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so most of the artists really I know that are not able to sell their works because nobody wants them. But
Yeah, but we're not talking about them, right? We're talking about you
Mhm.
only right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about Vincent van Gogh. It's a great example. What I
Mhm.
wanted to do this is this, right? I think Nikki already kind of deals with this question all the time. And that's why she is already saying an answer that will give others of you perhaps some spark of shift right now. We looked at this process, but the mistake that I made here, the lie that I told, is that it doesn't work that way, right? It works this way. You don't take any action unless it's based on the boxes in your head. You don't take any action in life unless it's based on who you are at the moment you're taking the action. And Nikki was basically pointing out that she's going to be the same person after she achieves the goal as she's already being. That's because she has the enlightenment of the process of being through this kind of work a lot. And she knows that it starts with who you are. So if I don't behave as a profitable thought leader, I'm never going to do those things on my list. You get that, Tondo?
Yeah, I do.
If you behave as a provider and whatever else you come up with for that way of being you want to achieve now, you would be a lot more likely to get the job done, right?
Okay. Makes sense, yes.
Now this is kind of like transformation 101. It's be, do, have instead of do, have, be. Most people in the world live as do, have, be. They think of what do I have to do? They make SMART goals, but they don't ask the question of who they must be in order to achieve those goals. And if anybody here ever has the experience of actually setting goals that you don't follow, it's because you're not being the person you need to be to take the actions you need to take to got the goals to happen. But here's a really interesting twist to that basic thing, right? If you look back at who were you being last year in the number one thing you were most proud of, and just take a look at who you were being in that thing. Might be what you already said. Might be something else. I said the number one thing was finishing my book. I said I was being innovative, ambitious, and excited. That's who I was being. That got me finishing the book. Ambitious, I went out and told people I'm going to finish it by that time. Innovative in the ways I went about it, and what I wrote about, and excited. I was so excited that I was going to get my first book done by the end of the year. So please write down a couple of few words that describe the being that got you to win. And guess what I'm going to ask you to do next? Who are you not being, or who are you being that caused you to not win? In my case, I didn't sell to corporates because I was timid, helpless, and selfish. I didn't manage to put together a team. I didn't manage to take drastic or unusual actions and make conversations with big companies. I was waiting for someone else to step in and do it for me. So finishing my book, I was those things. Corporate uptake, I was those things. Do you all have a rough idea of who you were being in those two areas?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And watch this. What would happen if I flipped that around? If I chose to be timid, helpless, and selfish in the area of finishing my book?
It would not have been finished.
I don't think so, right? It just doesn't seem like that would have happened. What would happen if I was innovative, ambitious, and excited around corporate sales?
You would have made them.
Most likely, at least some. So if you flip yours around, what do you get?
It's about who you choose to be on, or what you choose to be on at any given time on any specific day. And I think from a personal perspective, we all have to understand that we are both. We can never always be innovative, ambitious, excited. We're not made like that. So we have to accept that there are some times where we will be timid, helpless, and selfish, but understand that it's our choice. So if you find yourself in the problem is that when you're in that timid, helpless, selfish state, you're not thinking about, I'm feeling timid, helpless, or selfish. It's always, I can't get to it because of this, or because of that, or because of the next thing. It's only when you step back and reflect that if you were present in the moment of who you are at that moment, you could change that and flip it over simply by making a choice.
Everything you just said is gold star beautiful.
Oh, I'm going to send you a bill.
Except, Nikki, I'm going to send you a bill. Except I'm going to send you a bill because there is a way we can start to actually become conscious of the thing you just said you're not conscious of.
It's because we don't live in the present.
Exactly.
We're always regretting the past or anticipating the future.
Yeah.
How many of us actually live in the present?
Absolutely, and that is a completely different webinar, but very important to highlight. So, if you had to choose the way of being that would give you the result you want, some of you already know it, some of you need to think about it for a second, but I know for me, being timid, helpless, and selfish is not going to work, right? What I did last year that didn't work, it's not going to work again. I'm not going to get all those achievements and get $1 million profit if I run through my year like that. But if I'm innovative, ambitious, and excited, like I was with my book, it's a lot more likely. It's not like rocket science. It's almost like math. So if you were to make that list now of the ways you need to be, and I'm saying need, it's not the best word, but the ways you know that will work to cause the best result. There's then one more step we're going to take, which Nikki is not expecting. That's why I'm going to send her a bill. Before we take that step, do I have, in your permission, we have 12 minutes left in the call. Can I take about 6 minutes to take you through a little bit of a promotional conversation that will serve as your marination period before you have to make the final decision? Have I earned that right?
Sure.
Is it okay with you?
Please do. Yeah.
Because we're gonna, basically now we're going to marinate. So we're not going to think about your thing that you worked on all this time at all. We're going to think about this. The training I've been doing for the past year is based on a structure that looks something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the sense that we work through a series of processes that build a creative process back into your mind. wherever you are, it's certainly not where you could be. And we go through a series of values and ways of dealing with yourself, starting with creating a safe space for your conscious and subconscious minds to collaborate as they're supposed to. Starting with the next step being to create an identity that you choose. I think you started talking about that a bit. Identity that you choose that is not based on your past and the things you've done until now accidentally, but is based on choices you can make about who you'd like to be, who you already are, and who you already are for other people as well. Using that identity to go forward with and create from that identity. Be able to open your mind more into the step of possibility generating ideas, and then finally closing with the steps of creating a vision that will allow you to close the decision-making process. And then how do you connect both to other people and also to new ideas? But that process takes a bit more than 30 seconds to explain properly. Basically, it works step by step like that. And the difference between this and something like design thinking is that this actually trains you how to manage the process yourself. I'm not going to ask you to read these right now. These are some really cool testimonials. There's about 20 of them, but I've only put 3 in this presentation. But you can read them later because I'm going to send you a whole presentation so that you can go back and look at it if you need to. The next workshop that we're going to do for the public that's not part of a company or a group is going to start at March 10th. It's going to run on Tuesday evenings in South Africa, and people like Ray that are coming from the United States can catch it earlier in the day. It's running for 8 sessions, 2 hours a session. It includes the full manual. Possibly by then an unshared copy of the book, but I won't promise that. It includes a 50 daily email series, which means every day during the course of the 8 weeks, you get an email that gives you the next step in the process. So each week is a topic, but each day is a step. You'll get the recordings of the sessions. So if you miss a session or you don't make it to a session, you'll get the recording of that session. And when myself and my new partners get our website together, which will eventually have a membership area, you'll get 3 years on that for free. Value of that, we say it's $997 based on what we see out there. Again, Nikki's one of the experts in the world on this stuff. If you add the bonuses we're going to include, which is all 3 books I showed you and possibly other bonuses, worth more than $1,000, but obviously we're not going to ask you for $1,000. We're going to ask you for about $300, which is about 4,500 Rand. But we're not going to ask you for that because you're on this call. So instead, we're going to cut it in half and ask you for about 2,300 Rand or about $150. That's what that would cost. Because you'll have a code, there it is, and the code will get mailed to you with this package. So if you want to do it, you still got till March 10th, you can join this. If you don't want to spend $150, you can get the whole video series that we're going to put up, which is going to go for $97. We're actually going to launch it at half that. But for you guys on the call, you can buy it for $17. Isn't that exciting? $17. Almost nothing with the discount code. And the other part is if you buy the workshop, we'll just give you these videos too. The bad news is that later in the year, we're going to make it like a really hot, crazy video series, and it'll cost more. But these videos have all the information, everything you need for the training. Okay, we still have 8 minutes, and I'm done with the promotional part. Is that cool?
Cool.
Any questions about it? You don't have to ask them now because you can just ask them later. Free gifts, I said I'd give you. So I'm going to give you this whole presentation. You can have it, and we'll send it to you. I'm also going to give you a link to this entire video. So if you want to go back and see any of it again or anything. Hopefully you're going to get a result out of this webinar at the end of this conversation just now. That's going to be the most important gift you're getting. And Nikki's paying for it. I'm going to send you some exercises you can do that will go back through some of what you did in case you want to do it again in the future or share it with a friend. You all probably have my ebook, which is a short thing called Innovation Fast Hacks. If you don't have it, just ask me and you'll get it. And then I'll give you the discount codes, which is also a cool free gift because basically you're going to get like $150 discount on the training if you want it, and you get like $80 discount on the videos. All cool, right? But here's the cool part.
Yep.
Okay, so if you've made a list of the things that you are going to be to achieve your goal, I changed mine now. So if you want to change yours, please do. I've changed it to being collaborative, confident, and I kept excited. Those are the things that I know if I be that way when I take the actions on my SMART goals, I will be much more likely to achieve the goals that I've set out. So it's not just who I am, right? Nikki said earlier, she already is that way and she's going to be that way later too. I'm actually selecting ways of being that I know I have access to. Again, Nikki pointed this out. We have access to the bad ones and the good ones. I've selected these specific things, which I could be or could not be. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. And these specific things, these specific 3 things that I've listed, I know those are 3 things that strike me as being stuff I could access and I can be those ways, but I'm not always those ways. And it's not just natural that I can just be that way. Sometimes I just am not that way. Do y'all have 2 or 3 things like that that you've put down to say that's the way you'd like to be to achieve those goals?
Yeah.
And do y'all look at that list and think, maybe I'm not always going to be that way. Sometimes I just don't do it.
Yeah. I think it's also about living with intent. So everything that you do, if you do it with intent and not just, okay, it's the next thing in my diary or the next point on my list. If you look at it, that will also help you to be present in the moment.
Well, what you just said is that intentional and present are 2 things that you aim to be.
Yeah, very much so.
So good things for your list of ways of
Yeah.
being. Now, here's the question. There's some story about yourself, and you don't have to get into it in depth. There's some story about yourself that's in the way of you being that way all the time. For example, going back earlier in the conversation, Nikki has a story that if she makes a drawing, people are going to laugh at her.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to laugh at it. That's
Well, that's fine, but you have another story, but people are going to make fun of you. And that will prevent you from ever doing a drawing.
No, it's just, it's not something that interests me in any way. You know, I have to write every day.
Yeah.
Because that is my creativity, is my writing. And I have to write every day. If I don't write, it feels like something is missing. And I don't feel like that about drawing. So what's the point of doing the drawing if it's not going to bring me joy?
I'm not
Writing
saying
brings me joy.
I'm not saying you need to do drawings. I'm just pointing out that.
No, but you understand what I mean.
I do. And let's apply it to the reality of something. What are the ways of being you said that you would like to be in order to get the goal done that you're not sure you can get done?
Well, for me, the 3 words that resonate with me as you said that was to be determined, to be organized, and to be relentless in my quest of achieving my goal.
Okay. So organized, determined, and relentless.
Yeah.
Sounds vicious.
I can be.
You're going to crush the world with that. So
I'm going to crush it.
So granted that you aren't able to be those things all the time. In other words, not able.
Absolutely.
Right? So what story about yourself, very briefly, what story about yourself is in a way of being that way all the time?
I have self-doubts. I second guess myself a lot of the time. I think because of the work that I do, I'm very black and white. So when there's a shade of gray, I'm not quite sure where to put it or how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of thought, which takes a lot of time, which takes away from what I'm wanting to achieve.
Very complicated story. Yeah.
No.
Well, it took a long time to say it. Very
there was a lot to say
about why you can't be those things all the time.
It's the truth.
Oh no, it's far from the truth. It's your truth in your head.
It's my truth. Yeah.
It's a story. Yeah.
And aren't our lives made up of stories?
Indeed. So here's a different story. Okay.
But that's what I said earlier. It's about the choice. So you can always turn it into a different story.
Exactly. That's what we're about to do. So, and this is the most simplistic, stupid thing I'm about to say. But if you can get this and actually apply it, it could make a massive difference in the results you're going to get.
Okay.
Ask yourself this: what could you do to actively generate that thing in you that you would like to be that you sometimes fail to be? And at this point, because we are literally 2 minutes from the end of this, I would like you to just say to yourself, if you've made that list of things, you may already in the past have done things to practice that for yourself, or you may not. But I know, for example, if I want to be collaborative, one thing I can do is make sure that the company that I've just joined with, that we make sure we have a monthly meeting that is not just a meeting, but actually a pleasant kind of full day activity, right? If I make sure we do that, I am going to be a collaborative person much more than if I don't do that action, right? Now, here's the weird thing. We had our first big meeting earlier this week, and my partner, the head of the other organization, suggested exactly that without me saying anything. But I'd already done this exercise and written it down, so I found that weird. One way I can become confident all the time is to, for example, attend Toastmasters every week. That would make me more confident in the sense of being around people and being in front of people. These are simply
Practical.
Sorry?
I'm saying it's very practical what you're saying.
Very practical.
Practical.
And it goes against the idea of transformation as being something impractical. If I want to be more excited, I should engage with new people more often. So I need to make a plan for that and put it into process.
Yeah.
My point is here that there are things that we always do. All of us probably have these in our lives, right? Things that we do in order to be a certain way. If you want to be more relaxed, you meditate. Right? I know that a couple of you guys do a lot of training of yourself. You do that training in order to achieve a way of being. So what would happen if you actually took on right now, for the rest of this year, a practice that generated that way of being reliably? And as Nikki said before, you sometimes just lose track of things and you don't notice that you're being that other way. What would happen if you took on a practice that caused you to constantly be aware of that?
Then you'd be Pavlov's dog.
You respond to outside stimuli.
Yep.
Well, your own outside stimuli. And so, you know, these might not be the best choices what I put on this list for me. I might come up with better ones. The question is, are you able to come up with at least one thing you could add into your plan that you could do as a practice, whether it's every day, every week, whatever necessary, that would reliably generate the way of being you've identified as something that would be successful? And if you don't have the answer yet, it's okay. You can get it tonight, later. But can you see that, or would you agree that if you can find a activity that would cause you to be that way that you're not sure you can be enough reliably, would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the one new idea I'm talking about. It's the idea of what you can bring into practice and just do that.
Okay. Got it.
Sorry, go ahead. Because essentially you have to do to become the be so you can do what you actually have to do to get the result. And that first doing has nothing to do with the result.
Okay.
Nothing to do with it. It's simply a practice to bring into your life that will allow you to get the result more reliably. So here's the other free thing I'm going to offer. If any of you are confused about this or you don't feel like you got it, let me know. We can have a chat.
Got it.
Can everybody quickly share, if you do have it, what is the one thing you're going to take on? And Nikki, you're going last. Let's start with Ray. He's been quiet for a while. Ray, what's the one new practice you can bring into your life, not to achieve the result, but to achieve the state of being that will have the result happen?
Well, I was thinking about excitement. I think the excitement and motivation
Okay.
is something that I have to work on. So
Okay.
I
So
wanted to
what
be
activity
excited
would you-
again. Mhm.
What activity
And
can you
drawing.
take on that would cause you to build excitement in your life on a regular basis?
Oh yeah. First thing is like reading a lot of books about art. So
Okay.
I have stacks and stacks of books, but and also files and files of ebooks, but I never get to read them. So I have
Okay.
to really like set a time to like focus. And
So could you take half
so
an hour every day to read half an hour about those books that you never read?
yeah, I can do that. Bring along my tablet or something. Yeah,
Fantastic.
when I go.
So there's one possible idea, or maybe you'll think of something else. Guys, we are 5 minutes over time. I'm sorry for that. Can we finish quickly? Take about 2 minutes to go through everybody here. Yes?
Okay, I'm getting everything. I'm just marinating it in my head. I think I'll just go back through the stuff that you're going to send us. But I'm definitely getting something. I might not be able to articulate it now.
Well, let's try to articulate it quickly, right? What's the way of being you were going to be? You're supposed to be a provider.
Yes.
Okay.
So I figured out that there's an isolate and establish and they start that I've written somewhere in my notes that are everywhere. So it's somewhere in my be and my do.
So you need
But
some
so
of Nikki's,
Michael, I'm just thinking about it now. I'm
you need
busy
some of Nikki's
marinating it all now.
organized, I think, right?
Organized, yes. I took that. I took organized and determined. I took it from Nikki as well.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we'll let you. I want to hear from you. Carol, what's the one way of being that you've said that you would make the most successful?
For me, it's engaged.
Fantastic. Okay. What's a practice you can take on that will keep you engaged?
I have to stay relevant.
I don't even know what that means now. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a big word.
What's a basic practice you can take on once a day, once a week that would cause you to be engaged?
I have to know what's going on around the environment from a marketing perspective.
How would you do that?
Stay relevant. So I have to tap into a lot more communities. I have to get involved with a lot more marketing societies.
Okay.
So I have to stay engaged.
So can you schedule that into your life?
Yeah, certainly.
Fantastic. Nikki, here we go.
Mine is living in the present. And a way to do that is to stop allowing unnecessary distractions.
Okay.
And saying no more often when it's not my stuff. Yeah.
So can you take a practice on that would help you be that way? Like, for example, get up and say no in the mirror or something.
Oh, no, I don't have to practice in the mirror. I promise you.
Okay, I just want to be certain.
Just say no.
2 years to take on a measurable practice, right? A smart practice. And finally, a smart C practice. Because what we're celebrating is the way of being, not the action, or definitely not the result. Because as you guys all know, we can do a lot about who we are. We can do a pretty good amount of what we do, but the result we get, we have no control over whatsoever. So how ludicrous is it that we celebrate results when we're happy with them, but we don't celebrate who we were in trying to get that result?
I think we need to celebrate the opportunity rather than the result.
We could celebrate the opportunity. I'm suggesting you celebrate that you're being the person you want to be. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the result come along.
Yes.
And it's something that I challenge people and myself on a daily basis. And one of the things that one of my mantras when I go to bed is I ask, or I say it without challenge, there is no growth. Have you challenged yourself today? And there are days when I have to be honest and say, no, I haven't. Today I've coasted. But for me, it's about challenging myself, not being ridiculously stupid about it, but just trying to be better today than I was yesterday. That's the challenge.
And here's my challenge to you. Make a SMART goal out of the thing you've chosen to do to cause yourself to be present. But not a SMART goal, a SMART C goal. Yep. Bring celebration into the process of your plan for that practice. And what that then means is you celebrate as a practice. So even if you
sorry, Michael.
Yeah.
I also have a thing that maybe I'd like to share with you guys, and that is, so I have a meeting day rather than having several meetings every day. I have a day that is I try and dedicate one day in the week to meetings. So have all the meetings on one day and you get them out of the way and you're not constantly interrupted. And there are times when people just don't pitch, or something comes up and they let you know at the last minute. And I used to get really, really annoyed about this because I saw it as people wasting my time and being disrespectful of my time. And then I turned that around and said, well, okay, it's not that people are being disrespectful of my time or that they're wasting my time. This is the universe saying to me, yeah, have an hour to do what you want with. It's your hour, do as you please, have fun. So it's also about taking something that could potentially be negative and literally flipping it. And it actually changes your whole mindset, it changes your whole direction, it changes how you're looking at things. So I think every time that you find yourself challenged, and it doesn't have to be with people just not pitching at meetings or things like that, but anything that irritates you during the day, and if you turn it on its head and flip it and see it differently, that also brings you back into the present.
Absolutely. And you know what you've described there is a process of choice, like you said before.
Yeah.
Process of choosing the box you put the experience into. Rather than the box of this is annoying me, you put it in the box of here's an opportunity for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking you guys to do, if it works for you, make a SMART C goal out of that one action that will help you be that way, whatever way that is that you want to be.
Cool.
Is that useful?
Yep. Very, thank you.
And what I really want you guys to do is actually plan the celebration, celebrate the being, not the, not at the end of the day did you get the result you wanted, because that's not up to you.
I think it's celebrating the journey rather than reaching the destination.
Partly, but the journey is the doing. So it's even more core, I'm saying, celebrate yourself. Celebrate that process in you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question I've asked you that you've now answered, hopefully, or you're going to answer is, what is the single most important thing you need to do to cultivate that way of being? That's the point, and that's the one new idea I want you to leave tonight with. If you don't have it yet, please get it so that you can start applying it. Yeah? So for me, taking care of my partnership relations is actually the single most important thing I need to do. There's a lot of pieces of that, like Carol has some pieces she's playing with, a lot of pieces of that. The one thing I know is that I have to make sure that every month this year, we have a day together. We have fun.
Can I give you another one, Mark?
Nope.
No,
nope.
I'm giving you a suggestion.
Not tonight. You can give it to me later on the email.
Okay. All right.
But thank you. I appreciate it. I will look forward to it. Thank you. We're way over time. I need to get you guys out of here because you have been really, really kind and very generous to stay this long. If you guys want to discuss this any further, if you need that, let me know and we'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
thanks,
cool.
Mark.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody, for the participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.